What is First Nation Group and what does it do?
First Nation Group is a holding company that offers medical supplies focused on one and only customer, and that is the veterans that serve our country. So it's historically been focused on respiratory, the full gamut from ventilation to CPAP, sleep apnea, and all the associated supplies. More recently, we have expanded into generic pharmaceuticals. And so we serve 500,000 veterans at any one point in time in all 50 states.
Interesting. So can we have you restate that just once more?
What is First Nation Group?
Exactly.
Right. First Nation Group is a holding company that was formed to serve the veterans who so honorably served our country with their health care needs. Historically, our focus has been respiratory, so everything in support of a veteran who may have either compromised oxygen levels, may have sleep apnea condition where they cease breathing, and we try to provide all the equipment and supplies necessary to improve their quality of life and sustain their quality of life.
Okay. Why is the work there you're doing important?
It's important to serve these veterans who otherwise their health would continue to deteriorate, and by providing them with the assistance of oxygen and sleep apnea compressors, they're able to have a better quality of life and a longer life than they otherwise would.
Tell me about the recent launch of the pharmaceuticals division.
Yes. The business premise when we first started off and formed First Nation Group was to gain scale so that we could serve as many veterans as possible with as short a turnaround time in getting their equipment and supplies, and to do it at the most cost-effective price possible. The movement more recently into pharmaceuticals gives us even more scale because the number one item in dollars spent by the Veteran Administration is on pharmaceuticals. So it's a big portion that we were not previously doing, but we were qualified, had a number of people, including myself, that had experience in the intravenous area of pharmaceuticals and injectables. And so now we've expanded into that area to just provide more service to the veterans.
So explain to me what the experience you had with the intravenous.
Sure. I've been in healthcare for 40 years, and my first job out of school was with a manufacturer of intravenous products that still exist to this day. And so they make the solutions you see on TV and the movies and so forth, the tubings that get hooked up to your catheter in your veins. They made the mechanical pumps that administer the rate of the infusion and filtration systems, things of that sort. So that was my first kind of 7 years out of college. And then when I went on my own was the advent of what was the beginnings of home health care. Because of the microprocessor computer controls, you could now treat people in their own private homes that previously had to have a 24-hour nurse in a hospital setting. And so I formed a home intravenous company that would, when the patients would typically get started in the hospital, be discharged to home, and then we would have a pharmacy that we owned mix up the drugs with the solutions, get all the apparatus, take it out, and teach the patient's family how to self-administer in the home.
Wow. So
just make sure you give a little bit of a gap after he stops talking, just so I get the video.
That's amazing. You've been doing this for a long time.
I'm an old man.
You're just, starting the good times of life.
Second half. This is the second half.
I mean, I'm getting old, so that's what I want to think. So you've been doing it so long, and you love it. Why does this new work make you proud?
I'm proud, first of all, of the team and the employees. We have almost no turnover. The same senior management team has been together for more than a decade. Every now and then you make a bad hire and you have to let somebody go. But very, very rarely does anybody leave us because the culture is a God-loving culture. We often pray before meetings for not our personal desire, but for God's desire to come true, and how to serve the patient, how to be compassionate with their needs. That's what permeates the culture. And as a result, the letters that I get and the thank yous, and whether it's from employees or their families, and then that culture has bred tremendous financial success, which then allows you to do so much charitably that otherwise wouldn't be possible. And that's just part of our whole mantra. Our employees know that when they come to work and do a good job, we will be profitable, and we will take approximately 50% of the profits and redistribute it to needy causes. So it's not just going to work, and I'm really more or less retired now, but I still am a shareholder. It's not going to work. You're serving people, and you're getting this great feeling. It's almost like being a missionary.
The best feeling in the world. Circle back, on your whole mantra. You explained like that's part of our whole mantra. What would your mantra be on this?
The mantra would be to create a culture that allows the employees to have personal growth, and to do so in a manner that it's about the team, not about the individual. It's about the team and how you can collectively serve better if you work as a team and you don't have your own self-interest out ahead of yourself. And that then moves into the position where you're able to serve people more fully, and hopefully at times you can serve them in a way that's not just about their medical needs, but it's also about their personal needs.
Wonderful.
You were spot on with that about employees.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Spot on.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm on
So I once gave a deposition in a lawsuit, and the lawyer was preparing me for a court case, and he said, "So if you get asked this question, what's your answer going to be?" And I went, "My answer is da 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 da." And he said, "That's perfect. Say it just like that. Don't say anything more. Don't say anything less." And I said, "Well, it's true." And he said, "All the better." So Mindy is validated as true.
Yeah, that's true. And that's how everyone at First Nation Group feels about the company.
Yeah.
And it starts at the top.
Yeah.
So.
That's so important in the company. So cool. So why is charitable giving important to you, and the mission of First Nation Group?
To whom much is given, much is expected. We've been so fortunate to be in this country, in this democracy, in this capitalistic environment where you can go from, I worked in a sewage filtration plant, and others that are in our senior management team have had similarly humble experiences. And to be able to go from there to a fairly large enterprise at this point in time, and my last enterprise was much bigger than this one, is just tremendously rewarding, and we're full of gratitude. You just can't. They say the greatest of the beatitudes is gratitude, and so it's when you're given so much, why wouldn't you want to just get the joy of giving to others?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Put that down there. You go. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
a
yeah.
fun, it's
Yeah,
just
like,
for the camera thing. No, yeah. It's the focus.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Wow. Tell me about your national funding charitable giving partners, i.e. Paralyzed Veterans of America, Disabled Americans, Veterans Matter, and Oscar Mike.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say,
I'm a little bit out of the loop on that because I don't work there anymore.
Right.
So.
Sure.
But maybe just share what you were saying about, you know, the adaptive sports, our ability to, and you can maybe check your notes too, just about the fact that we can, that we do support that sort of program, the adaptive sporting events and things of that nature.
Maybe with a blanket statement.
Yeah.
You know.
Sure.
I was trying to figure out what that blanket statement is.
All right. So the question again was.
The question is.
Or maybe just the question should be something like.
Why is charitable giving important to the mission of? Tell me about your national funding charitable giving partners, and you can.
Fisher House.
Yeah, Fisher House.
It's a national giving partner.
Sure.
And you could blanket the other ones.
Yeah, so I'll just give you three, right? So.
Sure.
So a few of the national partners would be an organization called Honor Flight. And Honor Flight takes, so far, World War II veterans. There's only a few left, but they're still alive. But they take World War II veterans and give them one final honor in their lifetime, which is to fly the veteran and someone to assist them on a large plane to Washington, D.C. Then they have essentially the equivalent of the presidential escort from Dulles Airport in with, the police and all the drama that you would get with a presidential escort, and they block off the streets, and there are people applauding on the sides, and they arrive at the World War II memorial, and then many of their U.S. congressmen are there to greet them and thank them for their service, and then there's quite an emotional ceremony. Many of them have never been there before, and so there's a lot of tears, and sometimes in preparation for these events, because they're planned months and months in advance. And these people are quite old. During the process of just the planning, we'll lose 3, 4, 5 of the veterans will die of natural causes before they get a chance to do it, because it took a few months to put it together. And so that is really... This is your first cut. Anyway, it's... Try it again. So that is so rewarding, and it's very emotional, because these people are given one final honor before they pass away. So that's one. A second would be there's kind of an adaptive Olympics for those that may be paraplegics, that may have assistance in some manner or another, to have their own kind of day in the sun, to be able to compete like others who don't have those disabilities that were achieved from their honorable service in the war. We are supportive of that as well. And then more recently, we've really become attached to the Fisher House. And that kind of emanated from the fact that my father and my father-in-law were both veterans of the Korean War, both suffered to their death from PTSD, and so we had a heart for veteran service and veteran health care. And then we have a cottage in northern Michigan, and I used to watch the veterans who would have to spend 12 hours to go what should be 4 hours to Ann Arbor, VA, because the service was a shuttle bus that stopped in every town and picked up a different veteran. And it just didn't seem to be very honorable to make a veteran who needs health care to make all these stops and travel 12 hours when it should have been 4 hours or even a short plane flight. So along the way, one of our housekeepers had a husband that was a veteran, and he developed illnesses that ultimately contributed to his death. But when he was coming down to get his acute care in the VA in Ann Arbor, because of their economic situation, they couldn't afford to stay in hotels or rent an Airbnb. And so we put up his spouse in our home. But I thought, what if we couldn't do that? Or what if all of our kids were still home and there was no room? Who takes care of these people when they have to be with their family member who needs health care? We know in the private sector that for years and years there's been the Ronald McDonald House. So if you're at the University of Michigan and you're not in a VA hospital, well, they have housing and they have support for families that are there to be with their family member who's being taken care of. The Veteran Administration has not had that historically, and so a la Here Comes Fisher House, it was just like a marriage made in heaven.
It's an amazing thing. You know, it's an amazing thing. Yeah, my uncle was a non-vet, and he frequents the VA here. He stays with us.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And this is known to be one of the better veterans hospitals in the country. They're not all the same, and there are some quality issues that we've read about and seen, but this one is very well thought of, and of course it's part of the education teaching system of the University of Michigan, which helps. Yeah.
Can we get Tim a water? He's on standby.
Absolutely.
They're right here on the counter. I just didn't want to draw one.
Yeah. My uncle.
Thanks.
And I'm going to take your notes back.
Oh, sure. Thanks.
I just wanted you to be able to read them if you wanted to get
Yeah.
right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the VA here is praised by my family.
Yeah. It's certainly in the top 5% nationwide. You know.
Yeah. So we'll pop on to the next question. Can you tell me about First Nation Group's $100,000 contribution to Oscar Mike's capital campaign?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, so we can probably
Moving
skip
forward?
that one. Yep.
What is it called? Oxford?
Oscar Mike. They're the company that does all of our apparel.
Uh-huh.
It's a for-profit that fuels the nonprofit mission.
Uh-huh.
It's owned by a paralyzed veteran, and he has this lifestyle apparel company.
Okay. Yeah. She'd be better to answer that than me.
Yeah, Cheryl knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely get
Yeah,
that.
she's smarter than I. She'll be here shortly, right? So she can.
I don't think so.
She was first in her class at Purdue. Self-taught CPA, board in Colorado, and a law degree, and jumped out of an airplane in the Air Force. She was a colonel and hurt her back, and so she's a true honored veteran. Yeah.
Wow.
And she would never tell you any of that, so that's why I did.
It's exactly what I said to him when I
I'll
walked
feed
in.
it in when I'm talking.
You're never going to get any of that out of her, so.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
So, is there
Yeah. If you want, I'll ask Cheryl the questions.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Just kidding.
Love that.
Yeah.
So, is there anything about First Nation Group that I didn't ask you that you'd like to discuss? I'm sure there's a lot.
Can you maybe tell us what you think makes us different from an SDVOSB, from our competitors, from those that are newly introduced to us?
Mm-hmm. So what makes us different? We touched earlier on the idea that no one ever leaves. That it's they're committed to each other. It's a God-fearing relationship in the company. It's a spiritual place to work, and it is a place particularly that we honor women. And so some of the workplace issues that you read about, whether it's in Hollywood or it's in business or whatever, they don't exist because we revere and lift up women like no other company that I know of, and that makes it a very, very healthy culture. Aside from that, we have multi-generations of family members, so it was really a good environment for dad or mom, and they feel so good about it they want their own kids to work there. So there's a couple of differentiating factors.
That's amazing.
It is.
Yeah. Hollywood's trying to get better. Please don't give us a bad name. There's been but that's great. What
It happens. It happens in business. It happens in the church.
It happens in the church. It happens everywhere. But
It's a human condition.
what kind of stuff do you do to uplift women and create good family values within the workplace?
Starts at the top, and that's not me. That's Steve and Cheryl, and they have exemplary families, exemplary marriages, and that just kind of permeates through a culture when you have that kind of leadership. And then otherwise, again, people will go through their struggles. I've said I was involved in starting a medical practice here in Ann Arbor that we hope is going to spread across the country. But the focus is, it's not just your physical condition, it's your mental condition and your spiritual condition. And most of medicine just focus on, I've got a pain in my knee, can we fix that? Or I've got skin cancer, can we fix that? Whereas the focus of our medical practice is mind, body, and spirit. And we actually have 3 full-time psychologists on staff, because I always say anybody who's got a family of any size at all is going to have some time in the marriage, some marital issue they got to cross that bridge. Sometime in the marriage they're going to have a depression or anxiety issue that's going to come into play. Sometime in the marriage they're going to have a alcohol or substance abuse issue. And to avoid that and act like it's not true is just being in denial. And so that's going to happen in the workplace. And so you're going to have people that need a leave of absence because they got to deal with something at home, and they need to be given a break to do so, or they need to be able to be in a position to talk healthily and share with one or more colleagues to get support, because we can't solve all the world's problems on our own. So we try to have that culture continually grow and build a confidence level that people can feel vulnerable and that they can share with each other and lift each other up.
That makes me feel so good. That's amazing.
Hopefully it's true.
I mean, it's just, yeah, that's fun.
Right there, that one will be a clear audience.
We do want to make sure though that we keep the chair to a minimum for this.
This chair or that chair?
This chair.
Okay.
You got 260 pounds on it, that's why it's creaking.
And this is, these are 1796.
Yeah.
Southern France chairs. So.
Sure.
Classics.
I forgot that they creak so much. My apologies. Okay. So, so is there anything about your relationships to charitable giving partners that I didn't ask you that you want to discuss?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Do you work with any of the Samaritan, or are you familiar with that relationship?
With Samaritan Center?
Weren't you guys on the foundational side?
Yeah. So
maybe just talk about
you want me
that
to talk about that?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Sure. Okay. So you got your question, and I'm just going to respond to it like I wasn't babbling there, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, one thing I'd like to kind of highlight that we've really gotten a lot of satisfaction, and so have all of our associates that work with us, is we're involved with something called the Samaritan Center in Detroit. The Samaritan Center was a 550,000 square foot hospital, only about 10 years old. It was built the last 50 years, but it was in the poorest zip code in Michigan and the 3rd poorest zip code in the country. And as a result, it's crime-ridden, high unemployment in the area, and largely dependent upon Medicaid and welfare. And it became financially untenable for the system that owned it, so they shut it down. And I was on the board of a not-for-profit called Holy Cross Children's Services, and we put together a proposal to buy it. And it had been built for $280 million, and we made a proposal to repurpose the former hospital into a cluster of local businesses, grocery store, fitness center, trade school, barber shop, dress for success, on and on, job training, computer training. And so every former unit of the hospital where there was patient care before has now been repurposed into businesses that serve that community, and it's now been very successful. The last portion that happened in the later years was that we purposefully opened up a new distribution center in what was formerly the supply building of this hospital system, and we now use one of our anchor systems that supports the Midwest with shipments of all the respiratory supplies that we talked about before. And then we employed people from that zip code who were either unemployed or grossly underemployed. And then we raised their minimum wage about 50% before what they were making before, provided them with health care benefits and so forth, and really created a lot of jobs in this very difficult situation. Separately, we partner with a Catholic high school in a very, very poor additional neighborhood of Detroit. And we have a program where most of these young boys in high school do not have fathers in the home. They're raised by a mother, and they don't have really good father figures in their lives. So we bring them in as interns, and they go to school 4 days a week, and then on the 5th day they come over and work in our First Nation distribution center, and they're then mentored by some wonderful men who they're getting job training skills. They may end up being a permanent employee when they graduate from high school, or they may be given the encouragement to go on to college or some other form of education. And the way the program works is we pay them, I think it's about $10 an hour for the young men, and then we also pay the school. So the school's getting supplement for scholarships and things for other students. And so we're not shortcutting anybody, but it's giving the kid a wonderful experience, and they're getting paid for it, and the school's getting paid additionally.
That was exactly what I was going to ask you about La Jolla, or Loyola.
Loyola.
So can you say that, not that whole thing again, but can you just say, we appreciate the partnership with Loyola University?
Yes. We are very grateful for the partnership with Loyola Catholic High School in Detroit, because we have benefited their students, but they have also benefited us.
How did First Nation Group and Fisher House's partnership start?
It started with two gentlemen I respect a lot. One had built a couple of homes for me, and the other was a good friend of his. They were both Jews, and their history is that their fathers were, I'm going to start over again.
Yeah.
So the two gentlemen were both Jews, and their fathers were friends growing up. And they were seized by the Nazis, and they were put on the back of a truck, like cattle in a truck, and they were the only two that couldn't fit. They had them laying on top of each other, standing on top of each other, just could not get two more in. So the truck took off, went to the top of a hill, they lined them up, and they assassinated all these young teenage Jewish boys. But the two, which are the people I know, did not have that fate take place, and they were then taken by some folks that were sympathizers, and they were put to work in a jail system doing all the worst of the worst chores, but it allowed them to avoid being assassinated with all the rest of their friends. So those two gentlemen's sons called me up one day and said, let's have lunch. We had lunch here in Ann Arbor, and they told the story that I just iterated, and I became very attached to them through that correlation of the story. So fast forwarding, the one gentleman, Harvey, called me years later, knew that my dad had served in the Korean War, and he announced for me this project of the Fisher House, and that they wanted to start one in Ann Arbor, that there were a number of them around the country that had been sponsored by this Fisher family, who essentially says, we will be glad to match whatever you can raise locally. So if you can get 50% of the construction costs, we'll match the other 50%. So we went about, and I was fortunate to be asked early, and we made a significant contribution, first by my family, personally, and then when they successfully got that built and wanted to move on to do one in Detroit at the Detroit VA, then at that point in time, we had put First Nation together. Cheryl was every bit as committed as my partner to serving veterans, not just through business, but personally. And so our company then made a very substantial contribution to the second Fisher House in Michigan.
That's amazing.
And that hit it where you want it to go?
That hit it exactly where I wanted it to go.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel good about that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I might skip 2 because I feel like...
Yeah, there's a lot of redundancy.
Yeah.
When you're talking to an Irishman, you kind of go all over the map, and eventually most of the points get covered, but just not in the order you expected.
And we can revisit those and then cover all the other points, right?
Yeah.
So with Chapter 2, I'd like you to kind of dictate if there's ones that you really want to...
Yeah.
So,
let me just...
because I feel like, as you can see, pretty much covered.
I think one of the questions we would love to hear from you is, why should people support the Fisher House in the Michigan community, given that they didn't have this resource before. The entire state of Michigan did not have this resource for veterans. So share your thoughts on why it's important for companies and individuals to support the Fisher House.
Sure. So you're going to ask that, and I'm going to respond, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So why is it important for companies to support the Fisher House?
You need to make it very personal. You need to think, if you were the veteran or you're the veteran's family, and you've got a healthcare condition that's very intensive that needs help, and you want to be there supporting your family member, or if you're the one getting the care, you'd like your family to be able to be there, to be supportive, so you're not kind of locked up and you can't see them for weeks or months at a time. I think most of us can personalize that and kind of identify with that circumstance. And so that ought to be at the core of why you would support it, is just put yourself in their position, and then add to that these are people that have served to defend this country, and that ought to just put it on steroids why you'd want to support Fisher House. It's also, if you're a corporate sponsor, I think it's a really feel-good story for your employees to know that you're doing that, and to maybe be involved as volunteers, to go to the Veterans Hospital or the Fisher House and maybe distribute Christmas presents to the people that are there. It's just a really great team-building effort, and it's a feel-good for everybody involved.
Can you tell me about the work that the Fisher House does? You can take a second.
Yeah. I already said Ronald McDonald House before, but I think it's still the right analogy. You know, what the Fisher House does is essentially serve as a Ronald McDonald House, but specifically for veterans health care and VA hospitals. There are a number throughout the country, and they continue to be developed. So it's a matter of saying, when the veteran needs their care and may be involved in hospital care and rehabilitation for an extended period of time, to not have to force them to be separated from those that love them. And most people can't afford to be in a hotel for a long period of time, and this is a means of putting them in a place where it can feel as much like home as possible, and they can be right next door to where their loved one is receiving care.
So beautiful. Like one of the most beautiful things in the world. And, you know, this is exactly what you just answered. But I'm going to ask it just to...
It's exactly what I answered, but you didn't like it, so you're going to ask it different. You're going to ask it a different way.
I loved it. It's just another question on here, and that's... I mean, basically, we know the Fisher House is a amazing thing that helps families, that helps veterans, and
a private sector initiative.
Yeah.
Not a government program. It's a private sector initiative. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think all of these questions kind of circle back on that one core value, that this place is one of the most amazing things ever. You know? So I'm going to skip to the last question, probably.
Yeah, that's fine.
Unless, do you have?
Yeah, no,
one?
I think that's perfect. I mean, you've literally talked about it in multiple ways, how it's impactful here in the community, and you know, why it's important to you and your family. So I think we're good there. If you
I think we'll follow up too.
If I was gonna twist something, right?
So
if I'm gonna twist it, what I'd probably do is spin it around and say, well, if you want to know why it's important to us, why don't you interview some of the families that have been served by the Fisher House? They're the ones that can tell you the impact. Yeah.
So is there anything?
In other words, don't take my word for it. Interview them. And I'm saying that rhetorically, but I think it gets the point across.
I mean, that gets the point across. Yeah. So is there anything else that you'd like to say about the Fisher House that I didn't ask you?
Yes, I would suggest that rather than ask me, that you interview and ask some of the patients and their families that have been served by the Fisher House, and that will cement for you the impact.
I love that. Personally, for you, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to express about the Fisher House that means to you?
No.
No. Okay. Great. So these next ones we're going to do, unless we have more things to follow up on that.
No, just these two, and then just a message to the employees.
Okay. So for this one, this is the time that I'm going to ask you to look directly into this camera.
Mm-hmm.
Trey, are you framed up?
And so you're not going to say it while we're filming. You're telling me to do it now, and then I'll be focused on the camera rather than you.
Yeah, we'll ask you a question. I mean,
well, actually, not even focusing on him at all for this one. Just dead center into this.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's addressing the audience.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So
you gonna prep me for this one?
No. Go ahead. So this one's gonna be.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, the best, address ever. This is gonna be a brief Happy Veterans Day message.
Mm-hmm.
So just look into the camera, and you can think about it for a little bit. What you'd want to say, if it's just Happy Veterans Day, or.
But in turn, it's really addressing the audience and the veterans on Veterans Day. So like something you would normally say to a veteran on Veterans Day.
In relationship to both First Nation group and Fisher House.
Right. Well, on this great Veterans Day that honors all of you, the first thing that I want to say is you have our immense gratitude. We are so thankful what you have done for this country. And speaking on behalf of our company, First Nation, we will do anything that you need to support your families going forward. And thank you.
Can I have you just adjust in the chair? Maybe we can get it just to squeak just a little less, just like a little shift. And then, because it was good for the other ones, and then for some reason that one statement was just creepy.
That was wonderful, though.
But that was beautiful.
That was very powerful. So take a deep breath, and then we're into it. Looking directly into there. And hold your gaze after you're done speaking into this lens for 3 beats. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'm honored to honor you on this Veterans Day. Veterans Day is meant to celebrate your service, but most of all, I would like to give you my gratitude for all that you've done for our country. And I pledge to you on behalf of First Nation, we will do anything to support you going forward. You've earned it, you deserve it, and we are honored to support you.
Wonderful. You happy? Okay, and we're going to do that again. Instead of Veterans Day, we're going to do a Happy Holidays.
Are we looking into the camera for this?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Do I have to say Happy Holidays? I can't say Merry Christmas?
Because it might be Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just wanted to get some just general messaging so that we could use it throughout the year.
Sure.
Maybe, it might be used
4th of
internally.
July.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
If it was for Christmas. Yeah. All right.
But we're going to do Happy Holidays, right?
We're going to do Happy Holidays.
Sure.
All right, so deep breath. Hold your beat at the end of your sentence into that camera. We're good to go.
Happy Holidays. We at First Nation, as we sit around our dinner tables and gather with our families, know so well that we wouldn't have the freedom to do that and celebrate this holiday without your service. Thank you.
Can we do that one more time and then make sure that we say First Nation group?
You can't teach an old boy new tricks, huh?
I'm trying to input, get it infused in everybody.
Yeah. That was my best shot. I'll probably screw this up this time.
We'll just slot it in there.
Yeah.
We won't. You get it.
All right. Tell me when. Yeah.
And deep breath. You're into it.
Happy Holidays. On this wonderful occasion where many families gather, my own family will be gathered at a table, enjoying each other, sharing love, having a good turkey dinner. I think of those of you who may not be able to do so because you're receiving health care, but I think about Fisher House and how it enables you to be closer with your families. So with immense gratitude, thank you for your service that allows us the freedom to celebrate this holiday together.
And then the last one would just be just a message to the employees.
All right.
Your thanks
Right.
or,
Right.
your thoughts to the 160 plus employees.
Not relative to Fisher House, though, right?
Mm-hmm. This is just general messaging that we'll use for when employees come on board, or just a message from our leadership, or just a feel good.
No, not holiday related and not Fisher House related, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right.
Just a thank you for all you do.
Yeah.
Believing in the mission.
Hello, First Nation team members. This is Tim Patton. Many of you may not know me because I've been gone a few years, but I was a founder of the great company that you work for. I'm very proud of the culture that you have established, proud of your current leadership, and I wish you well in all your endeavors, and you make me proud every day. Thank you.